When the Universe Speaks pod show drops episodes almost every Friday. Join your hosts Mojo, The Big Gringo, and Rooster Boy for a beer review, a meme of the week, voicemails from the weirdos, and your live calls. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share their content on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and every social media platform. Of course, you can, hear them on any podcast providers such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and you can even get stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, koozies, simply by clicking the links in the description of their show on YouTube or by shooting the guys a message. So when the universe speaks, just listen. Go to youtube.com/universe speaks. So don't wait. Go give these three Navy vets some support by subscribing to them on YouTube or any podcast platform. It is a really entertaining show. Again, that's youtube.com/universe speaks. And you can find them on Apple Podcasts and any other podcast app at When the Universe Speaks.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody. WWE Crown Jewel is behind us. We can all say in unison, hallelujah. The Crown Jewel is done. We can move on, not just from that pay-per-view that never really feels like a real pay-per-view, but to also the draft being fully in effect, the new rosters being fully set as of tomorrow, Friday, October 22nd. We can get back to regularly scheduled programming, but don't blink, because here comes Survivor Series with the one time a year that SmackDown and Raw stars go head to head in competition, and they are going back to the brand versus brand thing. They didn't mention NXT, but they did say Raw versus SmackDown, so they're going to basically manufacture a rivalry between the brands. The stars are going to throw everything aside and fight for the supremacy of their brand, which, by the way, means nothing. Zero, as we've seen in the past. There are zero consequences to losing. And there really couldn't be a worse time to do a concept like this if you're going to do it at all, and I would advise against it. But the worst time to do it is right after you do the draft. Why? Because you just reinstated the draft. You shook up the roster, and now you're going to have people who are just facing one another on the same brand that may have gotten split in the draft now face one another because it's brand versus brand. It's like going backwards. It doesn't make any sense. They needed to come up with a gimmick, and apparently the 5-on-5 traditional elimination match wasn't enough. I thought it was, or maybe it could just stand on its own merit that it's Survivor Series. This is one of those pay-per-views that I have no interest. I mean, less than Crown Jewel. And that's a sad thing to say for WWE pay-per-views and what Survivor Series really meant and used to mean before they gimmickized it, or Vince McMahonized it, or whatever you want to use. So I know we're not here to talk about Survivor Series, but soon enough it will be coming down the pike in exactly 1 month on November 21st. So as I record this, it's October 21st. So you guessed it, a month from now, we will all be just presented with this brand versus brand, and we're supposed to care as fans. So get ready for that. But right now we're going to talk about Crown Jewel. And if you want to go ad-free, if you guys hate those ads, easy to get rid of them, go to Patreon and join us there for $1 a month. Of course, there's other benefits and other tiers. You can do that. And speaking of Patreon, right now I'd like to take a moment to give a shout out to Claire C., our latest patron over at patreon.com, enjoying the ad-free experience. I'm going to go assuming it's a she, although nowadays I got to be careful assuming those things. But I'm gonna go old school here and assume that Claire, you are a female. So if you are, cool, thank you so much. If you're not, well then my apologies, and looking forward to interacting with you and enjoy all your ad-free content. It's there for your listening pleasure, and for $1 a month, not bad for hundreds and hundreds of shows that we have available. Those of you who have iPhones and just want to use the Apple Podcast app and don't want to have to download another app, you can join us on Apple Podcasts as well by going ad-free and clicking the ad-free button. It says, you want to get rid of these pesky ads? Right at the top, click the button. You get 7 days free to try us out, ad-free. And then after that, it's $2.99 a month for everything we do with 0 interruptions. So let's move on to Crown Jewel. Let's talk about the show. And again, guys, this spoiler alert, okay? This is your warning. That's why I didn't put the results in the title or description of this show as sometimes I do, because I don't know if everyone has watched the show yet. Given it was such a bizarre time to have a pay-per-view, I would assume that it was done by WWE so that they would have enough time to fly back in time for the SmackDown show tomorrow night in the United States. So that's my guess. Probably a safe one. But most of us obviously were working and unavailable to watch the show. I actually couldn't. Yeah, I was working in the office. I telecommuted back home for the other half of the day, but I had other obligations at home that I just could not have the time to watch the show. And man, oh man, was it a long show. It felt a whole lot like WrestleMania in a way that is not good because of the length of the show. It was over 4 hours. And I was doing a whole lot of the skipping ahead through entrances and the Susan G. Komen stuff and the anti-bullying and the repetitive video packages. There was a lot of stuff I skipped. It was probably like a good hour of content that was not needed or more, outside of the ring or things that were relevant to see or hear. So, but it did still feel very lengthy, especially when you come from Hulu and you're only used to a 90-minute Raw and maybe a 2-hour SmackDown. It is very difficult, I got to say, to watch a 4-hour show. It felt like watching 2 SmackDowns in a row. It's exactly what it was, but I'm just not used, I guess, to that length. And I felt every minute of it. That's not to say the card was bad or that the matches were bad. We didn't have every match be great. Like, let's be honest, we'll get to that. But this was a show that I felt every minute, and we had some very solid performances. A lot of chain wrestling from the women. Man, oh man, did the triple threat match deliver, in my estimation, as you'd expect with these 3 absolute pros. We'll get to that, but let's just start with the actual matches here. Let's dive into the results, and it started with the Usos versus Cedric and Shelton in the pre-show. Yeah, I know some of you were not happy about that being in the pre-show, but this normally would belong to Mansoor and Ali if you were in any other pay-per-view ever. But with Mansoor being the hometown boy, you have to move somebody out. And Usos versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton, with really little to no backstory there, it makes sense that these 4 individuals are put on the pre-show. And yeah, it was a fine match. It really was a fine match. I didn't have any issues with this, and having the Usos win was predictable and the right thing to do. I don't have much else to say. Okay, then we opened the actual pay-per-view with Edge versus Seth in a Hell in a Cell match. Great way to start the show, I gotta say. Really, I was excited that they got that off the bat, this Hell in a Cell match. And this was a physical match. This was hard fought. This match showed you can have a really good match by slowing the pace down, not having to do so many flips, and allowing the crowd to digest what you're doing. I say that over and over, and this match is a perfect example of that. They didn't move too fast. I think the pacing was very nice. The storytelling was very nice. I am disappointed about No Blood. Yeah, I made that case with Ashley on the preview and prediction show a couple of days ago. But without the blood, without the gift from the wrestling gods, I don't know if it felt like a Hell in a Cell match as much as it felt like a street fight with a cage around it. And it's weird, right? Because the cell wasn't utilized as much as I would hope that it would be in a match that deserved the cell. I don't know if that's really a knock as much as maybe kind of a bit of a disappointment for reinstating what the cell means. Maybe having Seth trying to escape, right? Trying to kowtow out of there when it gets too hot in the kitchen, so to speak, and having him realize he's trapped like a rat. That, I don't know, maybe just a little more utilization of the cell would have been better. That's my own personal opinion. I'm nitpicking. These two guys did great. I mean, I'm not here to crap on their performance. I think they did very well. Everything looks safe. That's the most important thing. But most things did look like they hurt. I got to say, a lot of things look like they hurt. And the use of tools with the wrench in the mouth that Edge put on Rollins was a fun visual. Some chair shots there, and you had the ending with Edge hitting the stomp on Seth and getting the victory that way. That may be the only thing that I'm a bit sad about, because. And then maybe out of the entire show, the only one that I had a problem with the outcome. And it's weird with me saying that because I'm actually not upset that Edge won because I really like Edge. The problem is, and maybe it is my own detriment, I look to the future and I look to see how guys can be built moving forward and why legacy stars coming in should one out of every like 3 or 4 times win a match. And Edge it's not like Edge has gone undefeated. I love Edge. But I think that Seth should have won this because there's more for Seth to gain than Edge. There's more for Seth to gain by winning this match and using it for bragging than there is for Edge to win and continue his legacy. Not that Edge, or rather Seth, can't talk his way out of it, build some heat back up, but I think this took some wind out of his sails. I have to say. And Seth, who I think is doing career work, not a good time to do that. It does make you wonder, though, what do they have in store or in mind for Edge on Monday Night Raw? You know, like, who is that person? What's the scenario? Maybe Edge takes some time off. Maybe we don't see Edge for a couple of months. But with Edge on Raw, that is, to me, the right move. I like Edge changing shows, off of the show with Roman, into a new environment. And you do kind of wonder, is it Big E? Probably not. You know, I don't think Big E is going to be the guy. Seth, obviously, no. So that's going to be fun to speculate who Edge moves on to next. I got to say, I mean, maybe you guys can come up with some good stories and some good opponents. You guys do a great job of that, as you heard on the mailbag last night. That went like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours for the scenarios and all that stuff. You guys put so much thought into it. It's really amazing. So, but that was the first match, a match that, again, I was a little disappointed at the outcome, only for Seth's benefit. There were some creative spots with the chain being wrapped around the foot of Rollins. That was cool. You know, the pedigree got brought out. The execution got brought out. What's that drop that Edge does? He did some kind of patented signature move on Seth on the steel steps that were planted inside the ring. I can't remember. Edge-o-matic? Did I get that right? I think it's the Edge-o-matic that he hit on Seth. That was a cool spot. So you look, was this match an absolute classic? The answer is no. This match was not a classic. This match is not going to be one that's talked about for years and years and years. It's not. But that's not to say it wasn't a really good match. I think it was a really good match. It was a bit. Sometimes you put this on paper and you have two great guys in the ring, and even if they've worked together before, sometimes that you think it's going to be a classic and it turns out to just be good to very good, and that's exactly what this was. It was good. I'd say good to very good. B+ is where I'd put this. So let's move on, though, and let's see what the next match on the card was. And that was, here we go, Mansoor versus Mustapha Ali. And we had Mansoor beat Mustapha Ali in, I thought, a decent match. And I like how they actually showed how the match was led up to. It wasn't just, here's a throwaway match that Mansoor, by the way. Apparently it's Mansoor. Here, WWE needs to get their O's and A's straight, because I heard Mansoor all night, and yet it's spelled M-A-N. Yet Omos is Omos is spelled Omos. So they're speaking the opposite of the letter that you're seeing with the O's and A's. So guys, you keep it straight. I can't. So pick your pronunciation. To me, Mustapha Ali is a much more fun way to say it than Mustafa. It sounds like I'm mispronouncing it on purpose. I don't know. So I'm going to stick with Mustapha Ali because that's what I want to do, and this is my show. So we had Mansoor win in a match that was, I think, very good. And psychology was good, too, with Ali bullying him at the beginning, saying, who you think you are, I'm better than you. Mansoor fights back, and the crowd is really behind him. You know, it wasn't a legendary pop by any means, but the crowd was absolutely behind him. He gets the victory on Mansoor gets the victory on Ali, and then the beatdown ensues from Ali in frustration, and that's where, get this, Saudi Olympia. I'm going to butcher the name. Tareg Hamedi saves Mansoor from a post-match assault after Mansoor's win over Ali. So he came out, everyone knew who he was in the crowd. I was looking at him like, who is this? I had no idea. And everyone at home is sitting there going, yeah, it's one of these Saudi Arabia things. Like, only they know. We're not in on the inside joke. But this guy is who's an Olympian in karate, or he won a gold medal in karate. I believe it. This dude, as Corey Graves said, threw the fastest kick I've ever seen in my life. It was a well-placed kick, well done all the way around, and the crowd went home happy with that. A very, very much a fan service segment that was not intended. Like, they should have just cut the feed and gone to commercials or something, or reran their anti-bullying campaign during this, because it was useless to the people at home. Completely useless. So, let's move on. Raw Tag Team Championship. RK Bro versus AJ and Omos. Ugh. Somebody needs to just pick a pronunciation and stick with it. Can we have Omos just say his name? Speak in the third person so we know if we're saying it correctly, and just stop all the debate. All right, let's continue. Orton nearly hit Styles with an RKO just moments into the match. Riddle tagged in. He used a modified airplane spin on Styles before accidentally depositing the challenger in his corner. Yes, I'm reading a review of this, or a summation of this match. Good old CBS Sports is there to save me. So both Riddle and Omos failed to put a dent in Omos, as the Giant was easily able to handle both of them. And then Omos eventually tagged Styles back in, which proved to be a bad move, as Orton was able to counter a phenomenal forearm into an RKO before tagging in Riddle to hit a floating bro and secure the pin, with Omos removed from the match. Where the hell was Omos, by the way? Where was it? Where was he? Yeah, it's weird though, because if Omos is so dominant, why are you tagging in somebody that is vulnerable? I don't understand that. Even CBS Sports pointed that out by saying the solid enough tag match action in this one, though you'd think the near invincible Omos would stop tagging in Styles at some point. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Like, why is Omos tagging in Styles at all? I mean, we know the real answer. It's because Omos's moveset is very limited, and he's much slower paced. And AJ is a work with anybody, always has a great match guy. So that's the real reason, to change the pace of things, and you don't want to overexpose Omos and expose his weaknesses. You got to hide those. So that's the real story to me. But a couple things from this match. Number one, the outcome was correct. I agree that RK Bro should have retained, and they did. That's fine. But to me, there's two stories. Number one, is this going to lead to AJ Styles and Omos splitting, as Omos becomes maybe more and more frustrated with AJ losing these matches on his behalf? Perhaps. And honestly, I don't know who RK Bro is going to work with outside of this team. They've got nobody in that tag team division. Viking Raiders right now. I mean, they got the Street Profits, I got to say. They do have the Street Profits. So I don't know. I don't know where this team is headed. If Omos is not ready for prime time, then keep him with AJ, I guess. But that's number one. Is this leading to a split? Number two, is Omos ever going to take a finisher? Is he more dominant than anyone we've ever seen ever? I mean, that's what it seems like. Even Randy Orton couldn't hold a candle to him. Couldn't get an offensive move in. He was no-selling punches. Well, here's a clue. I don't care how big you are, how big your muscles are. There are places on your body you can't build muscle. Your face is one of them. So to no-sell punches just doesn't make sense, but I get the presentation. I get it. I'm not complaining or ranting. It's just an observation. And how Omos isn't taking any offense seriously at all. If you're not going to take the offense from Randy Orton seriously, who are you going to take the offense seriously from? Who is Omos going to sell for? He's no selling for Riddle. He's no selling for Randy. So who exactly does WWE have in mind to eventually take down Omos? I think I have the answer. The answer is nobody right now. They don't know. They're just doing this and hoping somebody comes along that can fill in the other side of the story. That's what they're doing. But I have no idea right now who they right now in the roster, current roster, could take him down. I mean, he hasn't even taken a finisher yet. He hasn't even left his feet. I was hoping he'd at least get an RKO. He'd eat an RKO and then see how he sells it. That didn't even happen. I was disappointed about that. So it's kind of a twofold. Decent match. Outcome was right. But there was very little progress with Omos. And he disappeared at the end of the match. I mean, he was a ghost. So. All right. Queen's Crown Finals. Doudrop versus Lena Vega. I have to say this match was actually better than I thought it would have been. Because these two have not worked together, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I've seen, in front of a live audience. I think them on the pay-per-view in this kind of pressure situation in the finals of the first ever Queen's Crown in front of tens of thousands of people, I think they did a decent job. Now here's CBS Sports, and they're not the only source, of course. They're not the gospel, but they're one source. They gave this grade for a match a C. They graded this match a C. I wouldn't be so cruel. I'd say like a C+, B- area, because given the size disparity, that's a big thing to have to overcome. No pun intended. And the announcers also have to stay away from talking about Doudrop's size. Can't talk about that because it's offensive. They won't ever do that because she's a woman. And I guess the perception is that if they bring attention to her weight, that it's going to be perceived as sexist or it's going to be perceived as offensive. Somebody's going to throw a stink about it. When in reality, it's an asset. It's an absolute asset to Doudrop. Why are we not talking about it? You know, the sheer size and mass. I mean, you don't have to say, you're not going to say, oh, look how fat she is. Of course not. Of course not. But you can bring attention to it in a positive way and have the announcers tell the people at home how this is such an advantage for her and how it's going to work in her favor by being able to keep opponents' shoulders on the mat. Why are we hiding it? The announcers don't talk about the elephant in the room. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really not trying to be puns. Right. I'm trying not to say a lot of puns here. I don't mean to be. That's just the expression that came to mind. And I don't mean that in any kind of offensive way for real. But they don't talk about this. And it's one of the most obvious things about Doudrop that could be spun in a positive way. And they're not even talking about it. You know, they're acting as if she's just another wrestler on the roster. Just another woman there competing, looking like everybody else. So I'm not a fan of that. But they did decently. They really did. I was fine with it. It wasn't super short. It wasn't the 2-minute match that we got, first a couple of weeks during the qualifier or the semifinals and things. This match went just under 6 minutes. But it was still kind of short, as CBS Sports points out. It was short for a tournament final. Yeah, it was. It was, but would you have really wanted to see this go on longer? I wouldn't. I think that the time was actually just perfect for these two. They're inexperienced together in the ring. And if you want to maybe hide the weaknesses of either woman, you don't want them out there too long because eventually they'll shoot themselves in the foot. However, the code red on Doudrop was awesome. You wouldn't think, again, a woman of her size would be able to do what she does, and she did it, and she did it wonderfully. So Code Red looked awesome, and I'm really digging that finish. Really digging it. All right, let's get. As far as Lena Vega winning, awesome. It's exactly what I wanted. I was hoping she'd win. She did, and she looks already like a queen. Now, what's going to happen when she runs into Charlotte Flair, who has been calling herself the queen for 7 years? Well, we'll see. Hopefully they just don't address that, because that, to me, would water down the whole point of the queen's crown. But Zelina winning, I got to say, the apron that both the King of the Ring winner and Zelina Vega tried to put on, it just did not fit. It was sliding off or whatever. So all they could do is put the crown on and hold the scepter, which is what both of them did. But Zelina is going to be fun as a queen ruling over her kingdom. It's going to be fun. I just hope she doesn't adopt it and go all in. I have a feeling she might. But it's just been so played out. It's been so played out. I'm concerned about it. Even as great as Zelina is on the mic, I'm a little concerned about it. All right, Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. Falls count anywhere. This was like the night of chains, because Lashley also wrapped a chain around his hand, as Seth did with his foot, except this time Lashley did it with his hand before the match, and then Goldberg tried to attack with punches immediately and was dropped by Lashley, who used his chain wrapped fist. Now, look, this match, I have to say, was much better than their last. It actually had wrestling maneuvers, and I think the weaknesses were covered by the ability to use weapons. So you don't always have to do wrestling moves. You can just be straight out violent without having to expose the weaknesses of your limited moveset and other things. But this match was actually okay for me. This was okay. I did predict that Goldberg would win, and he did. I eventually you got to give the guy a victory. He's had a couple of losses now, and Goldberg beating Lashley, I'm not happy about it, but I saw it coming. And having him spear Bobby Lashley off of the ramp, as Michael Cole said, 15 feet, I don't know about that. That's almost how high the cell is. It's like 5 feet less than the cell. I highly doubt it was 15 feet, but fine. Let's go with it. It was a very good bump, safe bump. Both guys did well. I will say, though, for all the talk that Goldberg did about actually wanting to kill Lashley, he had zero follow through on that. And Corey Graves tried to cover for him by saying everything that Goldberg said he was going to attempt to do to end Lashley, he followed through on those words. I'm saying, like, no, Corey, do you think that we are morons? No, he didn't. How would this have ended any differently if this was a different opponent that didn't attack his son? There was zero difference, which is why I didn't like the whole I'm going to kill you and then tripling, quadrupling down on that phrase and actually trying to say it in a way that people take it literally. It's a stupid thing to say because you can't deliver on it. And it's even worse when you don't even try to deliver on it. Like, it's not like Goldberg did something to Bobby that could be interpreted as very dangerous, right? Like maybe, I don't know, putting his neck, how about this? Hang his neck off of the steel steps and then taking the other set of steel steps and trying to crack him in the back of the head to snap his neck. Obviously not following through, but at least threatening to. And then after the match, you could have had Goldberg try to do something to Lashley and the officials come out to stop him. So nothing's actually followed through, but you have at least the threat that it was that he was trying to, that at least he was trying to follow through with what he was going to say. So this was, to me, that was the worst part of the match, was that for all the talk Goldberg had, he didn't even attempt, which again, is all you can expect, is just an attempt to follow through. He gets stopped by officials or security. Fine. That's fine. That's what you expect. He's not going to follow through on anything, but at least the threat of it's there, and he tried to be a man and follow through on his word. Unfortunately, he did not. So that just, to me, discredits Goldberg even further. But for what it's worth, these two had a pretty good match. And I hate to say that with Goldberg on the other end of that. Does that mean that I want to see Goldberg again in a match? Hell no. I'm done. I don't care if this was to me, then should be Goldberg's final match. Just leave it here, buddy. You're not going to have a better match than that. It's not going to happen. This was a complete rarity for Goldberg.
Stay right there. The WWE podcast will return after this quick break.
When the Universe Speaks Pod Show drops episodes almost every Friday. Join your hosts Mojo, The Big Gringo, and Rooster Boy for a beer review, a meme of the week, voicemails from the weirdos, and your live calls. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share their content on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and every social media platform. Of course, you can, hear them on any podcast providers such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and you can even get stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, koozies, simply by clicking the links in the description of their show on YouTube or by shooting the guys a message. So when the universe speaks, just listen. Go to youtube.com/universe speaks. So don't wait. Go give these three Navy vets some support by subscribing to them on YouTube or any podcast platform. It is a really entertaining show. Again, that's youtube.com/universe speaks. And you can find them on Apple Podcasts and any other podcast app at When the Universe Speaks.
Welcome back to the WWE podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
So this was fine. It was way better than the match they had at SummerSlam. I think they learned from their mistakes at SummerSlam. Goldberg actually did some decent selling with his leg and continued to sell it throughout the match, just not have it magically get better. I think a lot of times big things happen, especially in no-holds-barred matches, and the individual will sell it for like a minute or less, and then it's forgotten and your body magically heals it. Instead, Goldberg actually continues to sell the leg, which, hey, credit to him. I'll give credit where it's due. As much as I don't want to see him in a ring again, I'm just going to call it like it is. So we can at least move on from this. Lashley can get into something that's more meaningful. We can pretend this didn't happen. Goldberg can go off into his motorcycle shop or, I don't know, attend his son's baseball games in high school, whatever the hell he does, or his jiu-jitsu, and leave us all the hell alone. King of the Ring finals. Finn Balor versus Xavier Woods. All right, let's read the description of what CBS Sports said here. It's not long, I promise. Balor got early momentum. Oh, okay, I refuse to say that. Balor got the early advantage. See how you can use a thesaurus and change words? Okay, so Balor got the early advantage after a bit of back and forth action to start the match. Woods nearly won the match with a big super kick right as Balor was getting rolling for a corner drop kick. Both men exchanged chops, elbows, and kicks before Woods got Balor into the corner and delivered a superplex. Woods tried to end things with the top rope walk elbow drop, but Balor got his knees up and flurried back, trying to finish things with the coup de grace, only for Woods to move. Woods went for the rope walk elbow again, this time hitting it and getting the victory. CBS said that this was far shorter than expected, but is yet another great moment for a New Day member, with Woods getting to live his dream as King of the Ring. So Xavier Woods, or whatever, is your King of the Ring. And again, I expected this, and the only way I'm okay with this, because ultimately I'm my thoughts about the King of the Ring is what really matters to WWE. Who I thought should have won, and my feelings are of utmost importance to Vince. So I need to make sure I'm clear with them. So when he listens to this show, like he does religiously every morning while he's working out in the gym and eating his 16 eggs, that he knows how I feel exactly, so that he can structure the whole creative around my feelings. So it's about elevating the self, guys. It's about elevating the self. So that said, I will accept Xavier as king under two conditions. Really, it's an either or. It doesn't even have to be both happening. Either one of these happening, and I will be okay with it. One, he takes this somewhat seriously and doesn't start running around like a fool backstage, and he's like the king overseeing the breakfast buffet or something, or overseeing catering backstage, or he comes out with I don't know, bootios, and they completely make it an absolute bastardization of itself by having Xavier put his obnoxious, intolerable personality into this this honor of being King of the Ring. So that to me is one. I'll accept it if he just actually takes a little seriously. He can still be his complete doofus, intolerable self, but as long as he doesn't try to tie it to him winning King of the Ring and also bringing King of the Ring as kind of into his jokes, then I'm okay with it. The second and more appealing option to me is if this is a plan to turn Xavier heel, where this does start to go to his head, where he realizes that, hey, I haven't got an opportunity yet, but rather, Kofi has, Big E has. Where have my opportunities been? Where are my championship runs? What has been holding me back? Why? What has been going on? And he realizes maybe it's Xavier, or rather he realizes it's Kofi and Big E that did it to him, especially Kofi, because that's who he'd work with. So I'll accept it under those two conditions, and those two conditions only. So yeah. All right. Here's one thing too. I'll also say, they kept going back to Xavier Woods' tweet that he put out about King of the Ring. They kept talking about it. They kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And they said, and this is the tweet from Xavier earlier in the day. So he said, and I quote, "My entire career, I've been told to tone it down. Don't be full of myself. I'm too ridiculous. I don't fit in. Just be like everyone else. Don't think outside the box. Tonight, I have a chance to show all of those people they were wrong. This is the most important match of my life." Okay. Well, I don't know who is talking to him, saying to him, I mean, literally, like, really, is anyone going up to Xavier? Who has actually said to Xavier, look, you just be like everyone else. Don't think outside the box. No, the answer is nobody. Nobody actually says those words to people. Have anybody, listen, within the sound of my voice, has anyone ever said to you, just be like everyone else? Don't think outside the box. Yeah, the answer is no, because we all know we've been told those overused phrases a million times. Don't be like everyone else. Think outside the box, right? Those overused phrases we all hear at work. Think outside the box, right? How many times, especially if you work in an office, those are one of many overused tropes in the office language. So I don't believe him for a second. I'm sorry, I don't believe him for a second that he was told, be like everyone else. Don't think outside the box. Tone it down. Don't be full of myself. I'm sorry. I don't know if I believe any of this. Why? You're in the wrestling business. If you get into the wrestling business, how do you not know that doing the exact opposite of these things is what will make you a star? Right? You need to make a name for yourself. There's tone it down. You need to be a little bit flamboyant if you need to be in certain ways. You have to be selfish. How many times have you heard that from Stone Cold or some other greats? You need to be selfish in this business. What's the old phrase? You can make friends or you can make money. Yeah. He's in the business. He knows this. I'm too ridiculous. I don't fit in. What? What do you mean you're too ridiculous? You don't fit in. What? From who? Who's saying this? You mean the guys that you were with for the last 7 years in the New Day group? What is that? Is that who it is? And like I said, just be like everyone else. Don't think outside the box. I have a chance to show all these people wrong. Well, oh my God, the bravery, Xavier. The bravery of getting paid likely upwards of $1 million a year to prove people wrong. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I don't believe a word of that tweet. It's so woe is me, it seems like he's trying to victimize himself and that he's going to overcome this victimization. No, dude, you're not. You've been getting paid a handsome salary plus likely a lot of royalties from the merchandise you're selling to be here. Okay. And what has prevented you from moving on to that next level is it's fairly simple, actually, that there is zero progression in your character. Zero. None. I could say the same thing about The Miz. The Miz has the same problem. Same guy. No progress, no evolution. So, I don't believe any of this. It's so 2021 to say something like this. I mean, I don't know. I probably pissed a whole bunch of people off. I don't know what to say. I'm sure I'll get some emails about this that I strongly disagree with, what you said about Xavier. He's never got an opportunity. Why would he lie? It's called attention. And this was clearly an approved statement being put out. I'm sure that he knows that putting this out it's not going to be controversial, right? It's the be yourself campaign. Don't worry about what anyone else says. Just be yourself. That's what'll get you to that next level. Just stop it. It's stomach churning. So I don't buy any of that for a second. And then it's a picture of him, which I'm guessing he took of himself sitting on what is it? Sitting on a dresser or something, some kind of bench. I don't know what it is. I think he's in his hotel room, I'm guessing. And he's got some pajama pants on. So I'm guessing he took a timer picture of himself. He set up a tripod and took a picture of himself sitting there very intently and seriously reflecting on his career. God, I don't know. That all said, I do think he's a really good performer in the ring. After I just completely trashed his tweet and just dissected it for the attention-seeking lies that these are, I think he's really good in the ring, and I do think he deserves a singles career. I do. This is why I'm advocating for him to turn heel. So I'm not advocating for him to go away or be fired. Absolutely not. I think he's a really good talent in the ring, and I want to see more of him. I want to see him in a heel role and have the New Day break up. He can perform very well, very well. And so that is absolutely. I mean, I can't take that away from him at all. And I won't. So, boy. So the one thing I did have a problem with, though, Finn Balor loses clean to Xavier Woods. When you look at where they are currently in the pecking order, Finn Balor has really had a fall from grace. I mean, he loses to he was on his way to beating Roman Reigns and loses to Xavier Woods clean in the span of a month. Yeah. Anyway, props to Xavier on the match. And I just hope it leads to something, and it's not just the means to an end of making this making the whole King of the Ring a mockery of itself and having him bastardize the whole thing. which I'm very concerned that will happen. And there's going to be like a king celebration on Raw tomorrow night, where there's just like a buffet of food in the ring, and they're parading around like just goofballs. That would be the worst possible scenario. All right. Can't wait for the voicemails and emails, guys. As they say, come at me, bro. Oh, man. What did I just do? Okay. Let's get to the WWE Championship match. Big E versus Drew McIntyre. Now, everything that I just crapped on the New Day for about their issues, I'm going to now praise with Big E here. He didn't do as much of his gyrations and New Day claps and just reflexive stuff that he's done for the last 7 years in the ring. He didn't start in his entrance music with the "aww," like he didn't do that. It was just his normal entrance music to a mildly positive reception. It wasn't anything overwhelming. I think Drew got a bigger pop than he did. And it was like this match was really good. Some people could argue this was in the top, at least in the top 2 or 3 matches of the night. I don't think that's even arguable. You could make the argument, I guess, that it's the best match of the night if you wanted to, and you went, dug in deep and dug your heels in. Sure, I could buy an argument because it was very good. And that's not just credit to Drew, who has been just a guy that you can always count on to have a really good match. And I don't think he's given enough credit at times, or we realize the consistency of Drew's matches. You just take them for granted at this time, at this point. And we shouldn't, because Drew's matches have been consistently very good. When is the last match that Drew's had that has been awful? I don't even know. Drew has been just such a constant, great wrestler that I don't know the last time he had a stinker. I don't think he's not often given credit for that. But at the same time, Big E, to me, had the best match of his career last night. Or rather, tonight. Boy, I'm losing track of time. I haven't gotten any sleep, guys. I'm getting like 4 hours of sleep a night tops. But Big E, to me, this was one of his staple matches that he's had. Maybe the biggest match he's had to date. Beating Drew McIntyre clean with the belly flop, big ending, was what he needed to move to the next level and gain the respect of fans, and not just be this guy that took advantage, won because he had an advantageous situation with the Money in the Bank briefcase, but can't hold on to it. It seems like they're going all in on Big E. To have you beat Drew clean, a guy that they're looking to face Roman Reigns at some point in the near future, that says something. And I think it's going to be Big E versus Roman at Survivor Series. Well, no, I don't think. I know it's probably going to be. So this was really good. Really good match. It had some very convincing near falls, as CBS Sports says. That's true. But this was an absolute must win for Big E. And he did. He won. So great stuff here by both men. Congrats to both. And it was awesome. So, okay. Let's see here. The SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, or should I say Esther versus Sasha. Does Becky find it funny, or I don't know, to use the real name? Because I believe that's her real name, right? Esther. So Becky finds it funny, or I don't know. I'm not knocking her. I just don't know what the purpose of it is. Is she supposed to make it more real by using her real name? Whatever the case, this was a really good match. A match that had so much chain wrestling in it and roll-ups and attempted pinfalls, I couldn't keep up. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It was just so smooth. And yeah, not everything hit. Not everything was perfectly executed, but we can't have that level of expectation. It's just not fair. But there was some really good moments. So let's take a part of the description that CBS Sports gave us, a part, not all, because they have a pretty big description here. So Lynch tried to hit both women with a drop kick from the top rope, but was caught and thrown back into the turnbuckle. Belair nearly hit Lynch with the kiss of death, but Lynch was able to counter and then get her knees up on a splash. Belair got more chances to shine with impressive shows of her power. The one-handed slam. My God, she's strong. Forcing Lynch and Banks to work together, locking in simultaneous Banks statements and disarm her. Banks used Belair's hair to pull her into several knees before Belair countered and nearly got the win with a bridging pin. Lynch made the save and then hit Banks with a manhandle slam, only to have Belair break the pin. So this was really good. This was just three professionals doing what they do best. And I give all of these women credit. Having Becky Lynch remain champion, the way she won, as we all know, was a roll-up. But that's okay because they were trying roll-ups basically the entire match. Having a roll-up, but more importantly, is having Becky hold on to the ropes for leverage to get the pinfall. So I think that was the right move. Becky Lynch retains. She now is the SmackDown Women's Champion on Raw, which, again, was Charlotte, the Raw Women's Champion on SmackDown. One can foresee a title exchange. I know Ashley Mann is not happy about this, but Ashley, I don't know how else you do it. And everyone else, out there, if you're wondering, like, what else do they do? Because the brands are now split. It's back to regularly scheduled programming. Yes, you have Survivor Series. Like, people are saying, oh, you can do it at Survivor Series, have Becky and Charlotte face each other. You can, and we probably will. But what's on the line? They're both champions. You can't put both belts on the line and make one a double champion. Because then you'd have double champions for everyone that's a champion facing one another. You'd have a universal WWE champion. You'd have Intercontinental United States champion. You can't do it. So perhaps that is when they swap titles, or maybe they swapped them beforehand. I would swap them beforehand. To me, the championships should stay exclusive to the brand that they were made for. End of subject. Why is it? It shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't even be thought of that if you're the Raw Women's Champion, and you're on SmackDown, you should just be awarded the SmackDown Women's Championship. The Raw Women's Championship goes to the SmackDown. Like, it's swap. Just swap it. I know Ashley hates it. Sorry, Ashley, but I just don't see another scenario in which it makes sense. It shouldn't be something long and drawn out in my estimation. Just have them damn swap the belts because they're evenly matched anyway. They have equal value. So why are we putting up a stink about it? We're changing one color to the next. Like, I'm getting the red one, you're getting the blue one. Great. Okay, now we can move on with our lives. Okay, so again, I thought this was good. Becky Lynch winning made sense to me, and I just want to see more of Bianca Belair. She was the star of this, even though Becky and Sasha, of course, are excellent in and of themselves, and they were. But Bianca Belair she's on another level, dude. I mean, she is, or ma'am, depending on who's listening to this, but she is on her own level of strength, agility, ring presence. She has everything. And I'm such a fan of Bianca's. She has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest, success story for NXT call-ups. I mean, you could say, oh, okay, the Shield, right? I guess maybe the Shield. But, I mean, the Shield didn't exist, though, in NXT. They were just plucked from there. So, but this was great. And anything Bianca is involved with match-wise, I want to watch. God, she's so strong too. Like, you see the size of her legs, and I'm not saying, oh, she has man legs. No, like, she has still very feminine, muscular legs. People think that muscle and femininity. Whoa, I said that word right the first time. Fun word to say. But they think that those need to be mutually exclusive, and they're not. To me, you can have both. Just because you're muscular doesn't automatically disqualify you from being feminine. And Bianca has nailed that perfectly. So she is a strong, like, physically just a specimen. So and she doesn't seem to get tired ever. Man, she's so fun to watch. She's so fun to watch. And I'm not discounting Becky or Sasha, but there's such a difference in body type and strength and agility between Bianca and everyone else, like literally everyone else, that it's just so striking. And your eyes are drawn to Bianca. All right, well, let's get to the main event here. Universal Championship, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. And this, I enjoyed this. This wasn't, I think, their best match ever. Maybe it's due to Lesnar not having a match in quite some time. I still don't like the ponytail on Brock. I like the beard. I don't like the ponytail. He's way too old to have a ponytail. I know some of you love it. It's personal preference. It doesn't work for me at all. But Lesnar was going for Germans early, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, where the hell does Paul Heyman? Where does his loyalty lie? And I have to, stroke my ego a little bit and say this is the exact finish, nearly the exact finish that I had predicted. When Ashley and I were talking about how this match could go down, we both thought Paul Heyman would be a factor, and he was. But I said, here's the scenario, one of the scenarios that they're going to have to put into place where it looks like Paul is could be argued on either side, where both guys are down and he throws the championship in the middle of the two guys, and the unintended recipient gets it, right? So that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened, and I don't know. I don't know if it's my stroke of genius or luck or I don't know. Maybe creative listening to the show, but no. Hey, that very rarely happens. That's like 1 in 100 that I get that kind of thing right. So, but when it happens, I like to make sure that my ego is stroked. So. Nonetheless, this was it was good. This match was good. I'd say it was good, and I agree with CBS Sports' rating of giving this a B. That's fine. This was part one of, I don't know how many parts between these two, of their latest rivalry. And Paul Heyman, when he threw the title belt in between both men, he yelled, "You know what to do with it." And both men wrestled over the belt before Lesnar ripped it away. But the Usos ran in, hit a double super kick, and Reigns laid out Lesnar with the belt before a second ref ran to the ring to make the count. So this did nothing, really, as CBS Sports says, to settle the issues between the men or the situation involving Heyman's loyalties. There's still a lot left to play out between Reigns and Lesnar. The overall rating here takes a hit for a fairly weak finish that hurt the action that came before. I understand that. I do. And these two definitely were physical. I had no problem with that. Having, of course, spears and Superman punches. There were two F5s, I believe. Reigns kicked out of the first, and then the Charles Robinson, the referee, got taken out by the second. I think there were two spears from Roman, but ultimately, it ended with the title belt to the face. Haven't seen that finish in quite a while. And it ended with Roman Reigns getting the victory as Paul Heyman is continuing to play with our emotions, to play with how is this going to play out. And it didn't progress things very much, but I guess, kind of baby stepped it forward in that I'm sure Reigns is going to question Paul Heyman on SmackDown and say, "Hey, Paul, so when you threw that belt in the ring, who were you talking to? I need you to be straight with me." So that continued seed of dissent is going to grow and grow and grow. And I hope they have a long-term plan for this, and it's not just, we'll figure out week by week, as they do with so many other things. Going back to Big E, though, and Drew, just while I'm thinking about it, I don't know the last time somebody kicked out of a Claymore. Maybe Bobby Lashley did it, or I know Roman Reigns, or rather Brock Lesnar did it at the WrestleMania 36, but I don't know. It was having Big E kick out of the Claymore was actually pretty startling. I will say that because that's a pretty protected finisher, but just wanted to point that out before I continue here. But anyway, back to Roman Reigns and Brock. Man, I mean, for Lesnar not being in a wrestling ring for quite some time, he looked about 90% of what he normally looks like. I think he lost some muscle mass. He's also getting older, and he doesn't need to be packing on a ton of muscle. I'm just saying from like what I remember Brock looking like to now. But he's about 90% of what he was. And he's still at a level that he can perform in main events. I mean, Brock Lesnar is superhuman. And as Corey Graves quoted Pat McAfee saying that he is the alpha male of our species, it's a perfect description of Brock Lesnar. It's perfect. But we'll have to see if Brock is going to stick around or if he's going to go away and then come back around Rumble season. I could see the latter happening, where Brock doesn't show up for a while and he goes away and then he'll show back up at, towards the Rumble, which will lead to WrestleMania. Because what's he going to do at Survivor Series? What the hell is Brock Lesnar going to do? He's a free agent, has no loyalty to a brand, and no one should, for that matter. Just being drafted to a brand, you have this inherent, just incessant need to defend the color of your shirt. It's stupid. Another just reason that Survivor Series is ridiculous. But I think that's what happens. Reigns and Lesnar gets revisited after Survivor Series, maybe in the next pay-per-view after that. That's my assumption, because there's no place in Survivor Series for Brock Lesnar unless you're going to have Brock Lesnar interfere in the match between Big E and Roman, and then you have Brock cause the loss for Roman, which is fine because there's no championships on the line. You won't have... These are non-title exhibition matches, and that'll just continue the program on. That's my best guess, is we don't see Brock for another month at Survivor Series screwing over Roman Reigns against Big E. How about that? That's my guess, because there's nobody he can face at Survivor Series. You can't build to a match between Roman and Brock at Survivor Series, because that's unfortunately not how Survivor Series is structured now. They've dumbed it down to this manufactured rivalry between Raw and SmackDown that has never existed, by the way. Ever. Never. I guess the closest it came is when Stephanie was the commissioner of SmackDown, or commissioner of Raw, and Paul Heyman was the commissioner or GM of SmackDown, or maybe when Eric Bischoff was running Raw and Steph was running SmackDown, it felt a little bit more like there could be a little brand loyalty, but not brand loyalty among fans. I mean, I guess if WWE comes to town, you don't go, well, is it Raw or SmackDown? I only go for the blue brand, man. I don't touch that red brand. You know that I'm loyal to blue. Tell me one fan that said that. That means the rivalry is manufactured. So, and I guess actually all rivalries in WWE are manufactured if you really want to get into it. But that one is just like, that one is the king of manufactured forced rivalries. So, all right, everybody. Well, if I didn't piss you off enough with the Xavier Woods breakdown, I'm sure I did. So, and some of you are probably like, oh, this arrogant SOB. Does he not respect Xavier Woods? And, I can't wait. This is going to be a fun mailbag. I don't hear from anybody, but I have a feeling I will. That, some people are going to say, I agree with you on most things, man, but when you started talking about Xavier Woods and, that he's lying in his tweet and he's playing the victim, and I really got to disagree with you. I can hear it, but that's cool. Let's have a debate. That's what's fun. It's wrestling, guys. It's wrestling. It's not real life anyway. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the WWE podcast. This does close out my week. Normally, I'm already closed out, but with the pay-per-view tonight, I had to come back on and give you my thoughts. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. We are now out of Crown Jewel onto Survivor Series on November 21st, right before Thanksgiving. So that'll be upon us before you know it. Things are going quick. I mean, we only got a week and change left of October. So that's going to be coming and going as fast as it came. That's such is life. But of course, tomorrow night is SmackDown already. So wrestling in your face. And then Rampage is on Saturday. So Mimi will be covering that. Michael Ritter will be covering SmackDown. And I'll be back on Sunday for your weekend review. Wow. So much coming, and obviously we're just getting started here on the show. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you like the show, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. Even if you don't like us, give us a 5-star rating. Just be a nice person. That'd be great. And I will talk to you next time. When the Universe Speaks Pod Show drops episodes almost every Friday. Join your hosts, Mojo, The Big Gringo, and Rooster Boy for a beer review a meme of the week, voicemails from the weirdos, and your live calls. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share their content on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and every social media platform. Of course, you can, hear them on any podcast providers such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and you can even get stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, koozies, simply by clicking the links in the description of their show on YouTube or by shooting the guys a message. So when the universe speaks, just listen. Go to youtube.com/universe speaks. So don't wait. Go give these three Navy vets some support by subscribing to them on YouTube or any podcast platform. It is a really entertaining show. Again, that's youtube.com/universe speaks. And you can find them on Apple Podcasts and any other podcast app at When the Universe Speaks.